Hi everyone, my name's Christine. I work here at the Farmingdale Public Library, and today I'd like to talk to you about interviewing strategies. Okay, so let's go. How to prepare for a job interview. Some of the key things that you'll need to be doing. You need to know what to bring, research the company, practice interviewing, get your interview clothes ready, and then follow up with a thank you note. The 3 P's of interviewing: prepare, plan, and practice. Preparation. So research the organization prior to the interview. You can do this on the website of the company. You can look at trade journals, newsletters, even doing a Google search to see what's been happening in the organization recently can help you to know more about the company. Try searching to see what the job has been created for. Lots of information can be found just by searching the internet. Okay, learn the name and job title of the person conducting the interview. Know the location of the interview. Make a trial run if necessary. If you're not sure where the building is, if it's a physical interview, then definitely make sure that you practice getting there ahead of time. Okay. Dress professionally, even if the company usually dresses casually. Dress professionally, even if you're Zoom interviewing. Okay. Arrive at least 15 minutes early. Start out early to allow for any traffic problems. Give yourself a cushion. That being said, if you're more than 15 minutes early, try waiting in your car or somewhere else. You don't want to show up a half an hour early because the person interviewing you probably won't be ready at that time. So 15 to 10 minutes is the perfect amount of time to show up. Okay, if you're interviewing on Zoom or another virtual platform, make sure that your computer and everything else is set up at least 10 minutes ahead of time. Okay. So one thing, if you are late for an interview, which of course is not ideal, but it does happen, if you're late, call them to let them know. Don't just let them sit there waiting to see where you are. Okay, apologize when you get there and move on. The way that you approach this setback sends a signal of how you're going to handle adversity in the future. Okay, so if you blame other people or you don't take responsibility, that sends a signal to the interviewer. So just take responsibility, apologize, and move on. Okay, but of course, always try to be early. Okay. Bring a notepad and a pen to take notes. You should also bring a copy of your resume. If you're interviewing at home, then have a copy of your resume in front of you. And write down questions to ask the interviewers. Okay, make sure you have them written down so you don't forget if you're nervous or flustered later on. It'll give you a good visual cue of what you can ask. Okay, so first impressions count. 50% of interviews are decided in the first 15 minutes, so it's essential to make a good impression. Confirmation bias is something that leads interviewers to forget anything that disagrees with their initial impression. So this can work in favor or against it. For example, you're not the most qualified, but your initial impression really makes them like you. They might ignore some of the other things that don't match up with their initial impression. But if you are the most qualified candidate, but when you show up, you don't seem interested or you're not friendly, then that's the impression that they're going to take home with them. Okay. So, interviewing strategy, sharpening your personal appeal. So silent language or subtext are very important in an interview. You have the silent language is body language that can alter the employee's perception of you. And subtext are powerful forces that can contradict what you say or reinforce your statements. If you're saying you really want the job, but you're not even looking at them or you don't sound interested, they're not going to believe you. Your posture is very important. Don't slouch, okay? Eye contact, important to maintain good eye contact. Subtle gestures, keep in mind if you talk a lot like this, just keep it in mind. They make, those are noticeable gestures. The sound of your voice, the rhythm of your speech, your handshake, your dress style, facial expressions, and personal grooming, these are all very important. It's important to make sure that they match what you're trying to say in your interview. Okay. As far as interview contact, turn off your cell phone and all other electronic devices. Stand up before you shake hands with the interviewer if you're in person, and maintain eye contact, especially when asking or answering questions. Smile. It demonstrates confidence and friendliness. And answer all questions truthfully. If you don't know the answer, it's better to say you don't know it and must seek the correct answer. Avoid rambling when you're answering questions. Try to provide short, to the point answers, even if you have to delay your answer for about 2 seconds. It shows that you're giving some thought. Interviewers will also sometimes pause after you answer a question before they ask a question, and you don't need to fill that space. If you've answered your question and you're happy with your question, you don't have to keep talking. Seek to give good examples of why you should be hired, such as very dedicated, conscientious, organized, cooperative, and try to back them up with experiences from your previous positions. Pay attention to your surroundings, especially if you're in the interviewer's office, for it will reveal personal insights about them. Or if they have books around or artwork, that may be something you can just kind of chit chat with about, if they're waiting for someone else to join the interview. Oh, that's a beautiful picture, or I just finished that book, what did you think? You can strike up a conversation that makes your interview more personal if you look around their office. Close your interview by stating how you're interested and feel qualified for the position. And then ask about the next step in the interview process, such as how long until they make a decision, or will there be more interviews, etc. Okay, speaking of asking questions, it is not optional. If the interviewer doesn't ask if you have any questions, interject and ask something. Even if an interviewer says it's okay if you don't have any questions, you have to say something. Some sample questions that you can ask. What challenges does this position present? How did this opening come about? What can you tell me about the job apart from what was in the job description? What is the key to succeeding in this role? There's also many, many lists available. If you just Google questions to ask in an interview, you can say questions to ask in a librarian interview, in an IT interview. Sometimes those can be more specific to the job you're considering. Okay, do not ask about salary in the first interview. If they bring it up, you can be as general as possible, saying something like, that depends on the work and the kind of opportunities that are available, but you should not bring it up first. So the top 10 common mistakes made during a job interview, things to keep in mind. Bad-mouthing previous employers. If they ask why you left, don't say anything bad about the previous employer. Just keep that in mind, because if you say something bad about your past employer, the job you're trying to get, they're going to remember that. And why would they want to hire someone who talked badly about their old employers? 2, inadequate research about a potential employer. You need to make sure you know stuff about the company and about the position going into it. 3, being unprepared with your answers. You need to practice some interview questions before going in. Not paying attention, talking too much, checking your phone or watch during the interview. Okay. Lacking humor, warmth, or personality. So just keep in mind when you're interviewing that the interviewer is looking for someone that they can work with, someone that they're going to interact with for a long time. So they want to make sure that it's someone they get along with and enjoy their company. Okay, in addition to your qualifications. Bringing a drink with you is not a good idea. It's also not a good idea when you're on a Zoom interview. Arriving too late or too early and dressing inappropriately are also common mistakes. So some commonly asked questions on interviews. I have a small list here, and there's many, many more. You can search Google. Lots of interview sites have them. We have lots of books here at the library that have many questions. So this is a small sample. So tell me about yourself. Tell me what you know about my company. Tell me about your strengths. Why should I hire you instead of someone more qualified? Did you ever have a disagreement with your boss? Describe a problem you faced and how you solved that problem. Where do you expect to be in 5 years from now? Why are you leaving your current position? Okay, so just some questions. And the STAR method, this is a method, a way to describe what you did. It's a strategy for answering questions, kind of gives you a framework for how you can approach questions. Okay, so S is for situation, something that you have done. T is for task, what was done to address it. A is for the action, the steps to accomplish the task, and R is the result, what was accomplished. Here's kind of a little bit of a graphic to give you an idea. So detail that for the situation, where, when, detail the background. For the task, describe the challenge and expectations. What needed to be done? Why? For A, it's the action. Elaborate your specific action. What did you do? How? What tools did you use? R is for results. Explain the results, accomplishments, recognition, savings, etc. Quantify it if you can. I increased sales by 10%, or we had more circulation at the library than ever before, thanks to this project. The more concrete answers you can give, the better off you'll be. So this is just a framework you can keep in mind. It's also something you can use when you're building your resume. So interviewers cannot ask questions about some things. They cannot ask about any of the following because they're discriminatory, unless they can prove that they're directly related to the job. So employers and interviewers cannot ask about race, color, sex, religion, national origin, birthplace, age, disability, and marital and family status. Okay. Sometimes these questions are asked unintentionally as sort of a getting to know you, and sometimes they're not asked. Sometimes they're asked intentionally. If an experienced interviewer is asking them, they know what they can ask and what they can't. So just keep that in mind. Okay. You can always end the interview if you are uncomfortable. This may not be what you want to do, but if they're asking a lot of inappropriate and illegal questions, you need to make sure that you feel comfortable at that company in the future. So if they're already making you uncomfortable in an interview, it may not be the right place to work. But a good strategy, if asked an inappropriate question, is to answer politely, avoiding the substance of the question, but addressing the intent. So you could say something like, my age is not an issue for my performance in this job. My religious beliefs, family obligations, gender, whatever, etc., will not interfere with my ability to do my job. So you're sort of letting them know that that's not the type of question they should ask, but also not making a huge deal of it, because more than likely you still do want the job and you just want to move forward with the interview and not create a big to-do. Okay. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Try to conduct a practice interview in the same format as the real interview. For example, if it's a phone interview, ask a friend to call you to practice answering questions over the phone. If it's a panel interview, see if you can get a few people to pretend to be a panel. And if it's a virtual interview on the computer, make sure that you practice and ahead of time and make sure that your background is how you want it, you appear how you want to, and that your computer is working properly. You can find lists of commonly asked questions and rehearse your answers to them. Definitely good to rehearse your answers out loud, not just in your head. Well, I think I'm going to say this. Practice actually speaking them. You'll hear the filler words, the the you know, I mean, all of that. Okay. Since so many interviews right now are virtual, we also just wanted to talk about creating a video-friendly environment. So you'll want to limit distractions so that the focus is on you, not what's in the background. Okay. Position your webcam at eye level. Okay. You don't want to be sitting way up high or way low, and proper lighting is essential. So take time to adjust it and get it right. Practice, going on Zoom at the same time of day as your interview. If you are going to be interviewing at 9 a.m., you want to see what the light is like in your space at that time, not what the light is like at 5 p.m. Okay. The background light should be the brightest in the room. A single desk lamp can be used as your main light source. Turn on any available lights in the room. Close all your windows and check to make sure there's no glare on your monitor. And never use your monitor as your light source. Okay. Be mindful of your background. Again, you don't want to be distracting. Position yourself in front of a wall with neutral colors if you can. Avoid patterns, wallpaper, and mirrors. Keep in mind that whatever an employer sees in your background, you're inviting them to see that. Be sure that your recording area is clean, as a tidy workspace conveys professionalism and organization to your future employer. You don't want stacks of paper all over you, dirty coffee cups. Okay, have a clean workspace in front of you. And excuse me, your recording space should be quiet and comfortable. Allot yourself ample time to answer each question in your chosen space. And eliminate all possible distractions and interruptions. Turn off your cell phone, and if you're at home, make sure that people in your home know that you're in an interview. Don't want them knocking on the door and coming in and not realizing that you're on an interview. And also keep practicing. Practice looking into the webcam, not the computer screen. If you look directly at the screen, it places your line of sight below the camera and you'll appear to be looking down. It takes a little bit of practice to get used to it, but you want to look at the webcam so that the employer or the interviewer sees you looking at them. This is where having a practice interview in the same medium ahead of time is really helpful. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about dressing for success. So the most important thing is to be neat, tidy, and polished. You want your clothing to be a compliment, not a distraction. So simple, understated jewelry, no big earrings and jangly bracelets. If you're moving your hands, you don't want them to hear all that noise. Be careful of flashy or bright colors. Go light on the perfume and cologne. If you are commuting into your interview or driving, don't show up with the sunglasses on top of your head or headphones around your neck. Okay? Keep your hair neat and out of your face. It doesn't have to be pulled back, but you just don't want to be playing with it during the interview. Whatever hairstyle makes you feel the most confident is what you should go with. So avoid tight or see-through clothing or anything that doesn't fit properly. For a man, traditional ties are best. No novelty or funny ties. This is not the best time for that. It's best to only show one earring or piercing in your ear. And closed-toe shoes are recommended and nothing too high. Okay, so lay out your outfit the night before. Make sure that it's clean, ironed, and ready. Have that all set so that you don't have to have another thing to stress about the day of the interview. For interview follow-up, it's very, very important to send a follow-up email to each person who interviewed you. And you want to do this within 24 hours of the interview. If you interview in the morning, send the thank you note later in the day so that when they come back to the office in the morning, it's there. Or so that they don't have to wait to see your thank you. Okay? Use this letter to elaborate your interest in the position and your qualifications for the job. If you have not received a status update 7 to 10 days after the interview, unless a longer time frame for the interviewing process was discussed, then you can make a follow-up call to the HR department to express your continued interest. Okay. And now what I'd like to show you is a resource where you can practice interviewing. It's provided by the New York State Department of Labor. It's called the Interview Stream. This is the link. You want to follow this link exactly. The beginning part, https://, you need to include that. When you go to the website, make sure that it says New York State Department of Labor, or else you're on the wrong one. So I'm going to show it to you in a second, but for new users, you're just going to set up your account. You'll select the location for the Hempstead Works Career Center. That's an organization in Hempstead that provides career counseling, and they provided my training for this presentation. You'll select that, and you'll enter an email and a password, and that's all there is to it. So let me show you. Okay. So it should look like this. Like I said, the Department of Labor. And I'm going to just sign in. 1 second. Okay, so I'm logged in. And what I want to show you is two things. First is all these resources for preparing for the interview. We have best practices, some tips on filler words, an elevator pitch. And what's really great up here, how to and best practices. are a whole bunch of videos that you can watch on popular interview questions and what it is that employers are looking to hear when they ask them for you. So tell me about yourself, why should we hire you, all sorts of things. And if you click on them, you'll see there's going to be a short video, a minute or two long, and it's going to offer some professional advice on how to answer the questions. So that's a really great resource to check out. And then the next thing is that you want to go, you can go over here, go back to the home page, and conduct a virtual interview. So what you can actually do here is record interviews of yourself answering questions and then watch them and assess yourself. So there's two ways to do it. You can take a pre-made interview over here in the practice interviews, or you can create your own custom interview. Just to show you, so to take a pre-made interview, there's a couple of pre-selected items. So like a default question, military service, specifically administration. For any of these, you can view the questions first. So for example, what is your greatest achievement and why? Why do you want to work for us? And so this interview would ask you all of those questions. So actually, let me go back and just show you. You'd click start your interview. This part isn't going to work right now because my camera is being used by Zoom, but what will happen is you'll check your hardware. It's going to make sure that your microphone and your camera are working. And then if they are, it'll let you progress. Okay, then it will say record, and someone will ask you the question that you've selected, and then you'll answer it. And then you can watch playback of that interview, and you can see how you did, and you can assess yourself. Okay, so I'm going to exit the interview, and I'll show you what I mean. So if you go to review, your previous interviews will be saved here. So here's me yesterday, excuse me, just kind of sitting there. And I selected some questions, and if I clicked play, it would show me, I could watch my interview the way I answered the questions. I can comment, make some comments to myself. I can also play it and have counters for filler words so I can see how much I'm using them and try to work on that if it's a problem. And I can do a self-assessment here on my body language. Did I answer the question completely? Okay. You can also, when you complete an interview, you can have someone else assess it for you, and they'll send it some feedback back to you. So I'll go back to the main menu to show you again. And if you have any trouble with this, you can always contact me at the library. Okay. So if we were preparing for an, excuse me, don't want to go there. To go to conduct an interview, and just to show you how you would do it if you wanted to build your own interview. Go to custom interview. There's a list of questions. I could search for questions. I can search by certain jobs. There's certain general questions, general question list, admissions, accomplishments, career goals. So you'll click on them. If you see any questions that you want to practice, you just drag them over, put them in the list, and then you would click start my interview, and it will go back to the same recording that we showed before. So this is an amazing resource provided by the New York State Department of Labor, and all you have to do to access it is create an account. So I'm going to log out, and that's all there is for today. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you have any questions, my name is Christine. I'm here at the Farmingdale Library. You can call us or email. The phone number for the reference desk, 516-249-9090. And I hope that this has been useful and that you gained some useful, insightful information. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day.